Hello and welcome to this your sixth and final tutorial on the emissions calculator app. I have to confess that most of the workload or the most difficult sections were covered already on the previous tasks. However, we consider that in order to provide a full spectrum of how does a commercial app works, we included these sections where you will learn how to redirect your Heroku app to a specific domain name. Let's call it from now on a commercial domain name. As far as you recall, Heroku assigns a URL specifically to your app, though if you like to commercialize your app, for instance, it will not do the trick as which, because it's quite long, it's difficult to remember, and it does include the Heroku section in there. So basically, our goal this week is going to be to have your app, the same app running as you have right now, but people could call it with different, let's call it catchy, their redirect names. Not things like energy.com, etc. Right, so in order to do that, we need to follow some steps. First of all, you need to get a unique identifier for your brand called a domain name. Something like etc.name.com or anything else that is catchy and works in favor of your product app brand. I've seen some options out there of companies that are not longer working with .com but working with the .io, for instance, if they're related to technology projects, etc. And that works in their favor, because you will realize as I continue that those options are cheaper and also makes people think within the URL name that this is a technology company. The second step will be to you could either just work with a domain name, or you can take a full name, domain name plus web host for a homepage. I will explain later on what is a domain name and what is a web host. And finally, you should point out your Heroku app to claim a domain or a subdomain within a section in Heroku called domain section, in order to point to the specific domain or subdomain. I will get additional details as we continue. So the first step is to get a unique identifier. In order to do that, you could go and visit pages like GoDaddy.com that are well known for hosting names for internet pages. So the whole business model is that these people, they maintain the databases, they connect or redirect and keep moving information related to the domains and to what specific IP address that domain redirects to. So the first thing that you do in a page like this is introducing some prospect of a URL that you like to get, and they give you the options including the prices. As you realize, they have different prices for different options, and they will always put at the top the options with the .com. And most of the time the option with .com is gonna be the most expensive. The reason behind that is, like, if your name is very simple, most probably a third-party provider already bought it and you need to deal with them to get this .com. It does matter if you're a large company and a lot of your business model is around your brand name. So you cannot change your name with something that is too long, or for instance that is not related with your service at all. So that does make a difference. However, as we're in an academic project, we can go with something cheaper, something smaller, things that .no, things that CO, etc. But I would suggest that as a middle ground, you use second options such as .net that are reliable, that people when people see them realize, like, okay, this might be a reliable website. Things like .no, for instance, that stays for Norway, or .org, that is the one that I use on my own website. That's why it's not available in here. They will offer you several options, and you can check out the prices and realize what the difference are. So going through GoDaddy is an option. However, what I do prefer, and it's somehow more expensive, but I got to say is more comfortable, is to go in directly to a web host provider. So I think this is a good point or a good moment to explain what's the difference between a web host, and a domain host. So the domain host, they provide of domain names, or you can call it URL. URL are these specific names that ends with a .com and redirects a customer, a user, in an easy and rememberable, or something that could be easily remembered, to a specific IP address. The IP address are a set of numbers that the computers read, or the servers read, to get to a specific position, all right, within the internet. So the whole case around the domain and why it's important is because you're not going to give the customer the IP server number, because they're not going to easily remember it or access it in a proper way. So what you do is like you connect something easy to remember, a .com name, to that IP address. Okay. So now the web host. The web host gives you additional services. They include an environment where the users can create and store content on internet servers, meaning that you can create websites from a web host. Particularly, I like using Bluehost. It's the one that I've used so far. I have no other experience with other web hosts, though I'm very happy with this one because it shows a great integration with other services. It helps me out building up my own website. You have sections where you can have like places like WordPress, where you can like edit your website, include default templates, etc. And then you can also connect to Heroku, as I will explain later on. So the options that you got so far is connecting your names either by the domain name itself. That is, I created already a domain for you that is connecting it directly to energy.io. energy.io.org. That's the name of the new domain that I prepared for you. Or go through a subdomain. That will be something like app1 energy.io, or I encourage you guys to create something cool for us, and then I will add it over here. So what's the main difference? If you point your Heroku app directly to the domain, then you are the only person that is gonna, or the only group that is gonna work with this domain, meaning that other groups might need to get their own domains, buy their own names, etc. And that might be costly if you're a company holding different applications. A good workaround option is what several companies, commercial online companies do, is including a subdomain. What is that? Is this section before your domain. And that gives flexibility, meaning that the manager of that domain, the ones controlling that domain, does not need to follow you up on the things that you're doing within your subdomain, meaning that everything that you update on your GitHub directly into your Heroku is going to be shown up here without the permission, or at least without that control of the community manager at the main domain, right? So our option, or at least our task this week, will be basically to connect your Heroku app to a subdomain within this energy.io.org website. In the future, and I hope not in a far future, we will create a homepage at the energy.io, meaning that you go on www.energy.io.org and you will find a homepage with hyperlinks or buttons directly to your specific apps per group. I hope we can do that, and we got time to do that. At least that's the plan from now, for a couple of weeks. Alright, back into the business of uploading this to a domain site. Our first step will be something similar to what I'm going to do now. Each and every one of you has to access to your app. I'm gonna take group 2 as an example this week. You can go on your section called settings and scroll all the way down to the section called add domain. In there, you're going to include the domain where your app is going to redirect, something like app1.energyio.org. Remember that I encourage you to put something cool in here, but this needs to be kept fixed, right? Then you press on next, and you're gonna receive something called a DNS target. Okay, you're gonna copy that one and you're gonna send that one to me because that's the one that I'm going to put at the domain of the web host and domain host section. So what we're doing in here is like Heroku is pointing to the domain, but that domain needs to lift up the restraint with the specific target that you just created. So the following section, you don't need to do it because we only have one domain, meaning that it's going to be managed by me. And in that case, the only thing I need is going to be your DNS target. Send it to me through Canvas or some secure channel. And what I'm going to do is go into the domain section within Bluehost, access the specific domain. This one's called energy.io. I go in manage. Then I will go and press on DNS. DNS stands for domain name systems. And I'm gonna hold into a section called CNAME, canonical name. In there, I'm gonna add the name of your app, called app1, and I'm gonna introduce here the DNS name that you gave to me, and I will save. So this is a process that it is already included, though it takes approximately 1 to 2 hours to get through. And at the end, your Heroku app, instead of me going to your group 1, group 2, ene425.herokuapp.org, I can just go directly in here and open the app. So far, let me try very quickly. I'm pretty sure it's not going to work because it needs to have some time to get it through. All right. So this week, there are no tasks, as you realize from the Excel task or the Excel page. There are no responsibles for the task this week. However, I encourage you to use the week to trim out your diary section, check out in your task Kanban if there's something missing, and improve your colors. Try to get true information that you haven't reviewed before because it was not belonging to your week, etc. And what I would expect is that all of you are on the same page. So I encourage you to use the week to first send me the cryptic name, the DNS target, so I can enroll that in the domain web host, no domain host. And secondly, use the week to get through things that you haven't understood properly. And also, if you like to send me a message, so we can check out things that we can improve together. Things like having your own website up and running, etc. All right, so having covered that, I'd like to close this tutorial first of all pointing out that I'm very happy with the outcome of this module. This module was created particularly for being instrumental instead of theoretical. Uh, Basically was done for you to create abilities and also to have a working environment where you could develop your own skills. I'm happy to say that now you're ready to share your new abilities with the world. And this is a summary of the things that we have learned throughout the last couple of weeks. At any time, if you got any question related to this specific module or anything that might be related to this module but is not on the specific scope of the module, please feel free to raise that to me, and I will be happy to try to address it as best as I can. So with that said, I will close now this tutorial and hope you all have a very productive semester, and also like to say, a very productive professional life afterwards.